Well, good Thursday morning. Josh Rugger here in studio. Hope everybody is having a great start to 2025. We're on the second day of the year, the first weather live stream of the year as well. And our first storm system of the year is knocking on our doorstep coming up later on Saturday night into Sunday. Not only that, we've got a massive pattern change expected next week as well. It's already a little bit cooler in Northwest Arkansas compared to what we've seen over the last couple of weeks. But man, next week is going to be our first true taste of winter in Northwest Arkansas. And it could be sticking around for an extended period of time. But hope everybody's having a great day. If you're new to our weather live streams, you can comment. Just send in those comments, send in any questions you have. And a lot of folks are wondering about this storm system that's coming up over the weekend. A lot of kids getting back to school next week as well. And Brian says, here we go. This is the best part of wintertime right here. Josh, if it doesn't snow, then my kids have already decided they're blaming you. Here's the deal, Brian. I always have to be the bearer of bad news this time of year, especially with systems like this, because I'm like, you know what, kids? Make sure you do your homework. Now, the good news is that as we head into Monday, most of the students won't be back in school yet. That'll be their first day back, so they probably don't have homework already. But as we move throughout the wintertime, look, I experienced it myself as a kid. I didn't do my homework one time. I think it was back when I was in the 6th or 7th grade. I thought it was going to snow for sure. Ended up not paying it out. Went back to school, got a big old 0 on my homework assignment. So I always have to be the bearer of bad news from personal experience. But I already see some questions coming in. I already have some folks asking about severe weather potential. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case with this system, at least in Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley. Now a little bit farther south, that could be a different story. But we'll get to all the details throughout this weather live stream. Definitely a lot of information to get to right now. So let's go ahead and kick off the satellite and radar. We got some high clouds streaming through Northwest Arkansas. We'll have that cloud cover as we move throughout the rest of the day today. That's because we've got a system just off to our north and west. Now notice not a whole lot of precipitation on radar. In fact, that area that looks like snow up there is actually not anything at all. It's just a little bit of radar debris going on there. But for Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley, no precipitation is expected today or tomorrow. So that's the good news. The system that's coming in from our north and west is just going to give us maybe a reinforcing shot of colder air as we move throughout tomorrow afternoon. But that will really be the extent of everything in our weather coverage area. You can kind of see that reflected on the 2-day forecast timeline. High temperatures today in the upper 40s to right around 50 degrees. Overnight lows in the middle 20s, maybe upper 20s to lower 30s in most spots, looking at the latest data, just because we've got quite a bit of cloud cover coming into the area. But tomorrow will be just a touch cooler, highs in the middle to upper 40s area-wide with mostly sunny skies expected. But notice on the tail end of that 2-day forecast timeline, a little bit more cloud cover starting to come back into play for Friday, and that will be in response to our next storm system. Now, where is this storm system currently located? Well, right now it's in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, still off the west coast of the United States, but starting to surge off to the east. This is going to be the system that is responsible for our precipitation chances as we move throughout Saturday night, but especially on Sunday. And you've probably been following this on social media quite a bit over the last several days. The reason why I have not done a weather live stream, by the way, yet. And I was considering doing it, but I didn't do it yet because I just didn't really feel like there was a point yet. And that's because the models were just flip-flopping back and forth. That's what they always do. You always see the social media hype train. You always see what I don't necessarily call misinformation, right? Because it's publicly available. You can go and see these models if you want to. And I'm not going to pretend like people can't go see that. But it can be misleading in a lot of ways because a lot of these accounts that post these models, right, they're trying to get engagement. They're trying to get clicks. They know what they're doing when they post these kind of things. And they drive up a lot of hype and they drive up a lot of engagement for their own personal gain. So I wanted to wait until the models were a little bit more consistent. They are starting to get consistent right now. And we are going to talk about kind of the details. And here's the deal, Jeremy. It's not a winter weather live stream. This is not what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure people are prepared for this weekend, have a good idea of what's going on, and then, maybe prepare for the cold blast that's coming up next week. Because here's the deal, Jeremy. The system is one thing, but the cold air that we've got coming up next week is the real deal. So we're going to talk about that in this weather live stream because I think that's what the top story is. I think folks need to be prepared for that, especially with multiple days of sub-freezing temperatures possible in our area. So we're going to get right to it right now, and we're going to look at these latest details. But here's the system again. that I was talking about, and I'm going to move myself out of the way so we can kind of see the full extent of this. Again, it's all about the track of these storm systems this time of year. So over the last several days, we've been trying to determine if this system is going to take a more northerly track or a more southerly track. Now, if these systems take a northerly track, that draws in a lot of warm air up north. If it takes a southerly track, it drops that colder air south. So if you're a snow lover, you want a more southerly track. Now, the GFS and the European model have been split on this over the last few days. The GFS was showing a more southerly track. The European was showing a more northerly track. Now both models are starting to show that more northerly track. You can see that here on Future Track. This is not the kind of track that you want if you're a snow lover for Northwest Arkansas. Where you want this system to be is right along the Red River here, all these little colors, right along the Red River, and then eject off to the north and east so you could get that convective banding. So you're seeing here on Future Track, all that energy is a little bit farther to the north. That's why portions of Kansas, Missouri, Illinois are going to get absolutely hammered from this system. I mean, they are going to get a ton of snow and a ton of winter weather potential in those areas. So that's the current track that both of the long-range models are forecasting. And you'll see here on Future Track what I kind of mean by that. Notice how we wake up a Saturday, maybe some light drizzle possible throughout the day. It's going to be kind of a dreary day over Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley, but look at all that convective banding that's going on near Kansas City, Wichita, St. Louis. Significant amount of freezing rain possible south of the St. Louis area. Folks, this will be a highly impactful winter system for these areas. But for Northwest Arkansas, the system is just too far north for us to see those winter weather impacts, or at least major winter weather impacts, because there is still the potential for maybe a passing blow of wintry mix along and north of the Bobby Hopper Tunnel. And you'll see that reflected here on Future Track. And both of the models do have different setups in terms of this. So this is a European. You can see the cold air is kind of delayed over our area. You're also not seeing as tight of a low pressure system, so not as strong as what the GFS is showing. I'll show the GFS in just a minute to show you what I mean. But this system ejects off to the north and east. A little bit of wraparound precipitation tries to make its way into far northwestern Arkansas, but you can obviously see a lot of dry air starting to move in as well. That is always a concern with these systems. Dry air is something that the models don't typically pick up on very well, or at least the long-range models don't do that. So even though the model may be showing wintry precipitation over Northwest Arkansas, it's probably very light on the backside of the system because of all the dry air that's starting to move in. But every system's different. You have to look at the relative humidity values, and that's something we're going to be fine-tuning over the coming days. But the point is, there will be the potential for a wintry mix late Sunday into early Monday morning. And the GFS is depicting maybe a more favorable setup for that. This low-pressure system, a little bit farther to the south on the GFS, still not far enough south for widespread winter weather over Northwest Arkansas. Again, you need that low pressure to be somewhere around the Dallas, Texas area, and just a little bit farther north, and then that system eject off to the north and east. That is the money-making system if you want significant snow here. But very similar setup, big winter weather outbreak over Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, Northwest Arkansas, kind of getting a cold rain. Now, the system here moves in a little bit quicker. It's also a little bit stronger as well compared to the European model. So that means we've got this quicker changeover to maybe a wintry mix of freezing rain, snow, and sleet. Certainly can't be rolled out throughout the late afternoon hours on Sunday, especially in far northwestern Arkansas. So this is probably like going to be the worst case scenario for winter weather, the GFS. This would probably produce a light amount of ice accumulation, which, of course, when it comes to freezing rain, a little bit goes a long way. But in terms of widespread winter weather, that's just not looking like the case here in Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley. So that's the good news. We're not talking about an ice storm. We're not talking about anything crazy. But Justin, we'll tell you what. Yeah, it's not cold enough yet, but get ready because it is. And I got a little bit ahead of myself here. I want to start here. I want to go right to Sunday morning, right here. Let's look at the temperatures at 7 o'clock a.m. So 7 o'clock a.m., you're waking up in Northwest Arkansas. Temperatures are in the lower to middle 50s, even the 60-degree range in some portions of the River Valley. But you can already see the front starting to move in right here. And this is going to be a strong front, folks. I'm telling you, you are going to feel the full brunt of it. Sunday, 9 o'clock a.m., at least according to this model, winds are in the southwest at 20 to 25 miles per hour. But look at this, temperatures still in the 60-degree range in Logan County and in the upper 30s in portions of Tahlequah. And as we move throughout the day Sunday, it is going to get cold really fast. Sunday afternoon, temperatures in the middle to upper 20s, single-digit wind chills in portions of northwest Arkansas, northwesterly winds at 20 miles per hour, and it gets even colder during the overnight hours. Overnight lows in the teens, wind chill values perhaps below zero in some locations, definitely in the single digits area wide. And my biggest concern is that we've got the kiddos coming back to school Monday morning. These wind chills are going to be very, very cold. So you got to make sure as the kids head to the bus stop that they've got multiple layers on. If possible, try to send them out there last second. I know that's not feasible for everybody, but if they're staying at the house by themselves, you have to work early in the morning, right? Let the kids know, hey, don't go outside to the bus stop until it arrives because it's just going to be really cold. And I mean, it's going to be brutally cold early Monday morning over northwest Arkansas. And it's not going to get much warmer as we move throughout the rest of next week. High temperatures likely in the upper 20s to lower 30s on Monday. Overnight lows once again dropping back off into the teens with single-digit wind chill values early Tuesday morning. So a long-term pattern of very, very cold air in northwest Arkansas and the River Valley. So it's time to start talking about pipes, people, pets, all those things that we usually talk about this time of year. And Brian makes a good point here. Just remember, if you're cold, they're cold. Remember to bring in all of the pets and woodland animals, including squirrels, raccoons, and small deer. So again, folks, if you've got like outdoor pets, outdoor dogs and stuff like that, I know it's not always feasible to bring them inside the house, but get them to a warm spot. Get them to an area where they can access water that's not frozen over, or food that can be even frozen over. I mean, it can get that cold in our area. Just make sure, yes, that your pets are inside, that they're safe, because this cold air can be quite dangerous for them as well. So we'll be watching that very, very closely. Um, Let's see here. I'm going to go and try to answer some more questions here. So Chris is asking, any chance the low could shift a little farther south? So Chris, there's always that potential. Nothing's set in stone yet, obviously, but here's one thing I'm going to mention. Pretty much across the board, you can look at climatology for Arkansas over an extended period of time. And what you'll see is that the biggest winter weather events over our area typically, not always, but typically happen when you have the cold air already in place. So you already have an Arctic blast that's moved to the area. The cold air is already settled into northwest Arkansas and the River Valley, and then you get a system that moves through on top of that cold air, and you get all wintry weather. Usually with systems like this, where the winter precipitation is coming on the backside of the system, it starts off as rain, and then it ends with a little bit of light wintry mix. That typically doesn't pan out for our area unless the system takes like the correct track. It typically doesn't happen. So if it does shift a little bit farther south, Chris, maybe we could get a little bit more of that light wintry mix. But in terms of like big time impacts, like a big winter storm, that is not going to be the case with the system, at least for our area, just because we don't have that cold air already in place. So here's the deal. We are going to have the cold air in place next week. If there's another system that comes to the area, which sometimes some of the models are hinting at that, but again, it's way too far out to get into specific details, then that would be a system that would set the alarm bells off. It'd be like, okay, this is something that we've got to watch very closely, especially if it's taking that track along the Red River and ejecting off to the north and east. If you get that track in northwest Arkansas, you get a big winter storm. I mean, it happens a lot. You usually get that convective banding, and that's how you can get some pretty hefty snowfall rates. Let's see here. Cold air is definitely going to be over the area. That's you're exactly right about that. Let's see. Any chances of snow? Maybe last week, maybe late week next week. Okay. So Taylor, again, we're watching these trends very closely right there. And as I just mentioned, it's going to be cold enough for that. So we're going to have to keep a close eye on it for sure. Let's see. There's a lot of questions right now. You guys are asking some good questions. If the moisture is there, the deep cold air is going to squeeze out all of that moisture. If there's enough cold air at the surface, we could get a backdoor winter event. So again, Bradley, we would, but the system's not taking a favorable track for that. So that's really the main issue, is that the system is too far north. There's a lot of dry air that filters in on that southern side of the storm, the southern side of the low pressure system. And if it jacks off to the north and east like that, you get that dry air, that dry slot that moves in. It happens all the time in our area. It seems like we always get that darn dry slot right over northwest Arkansas in the river valley, and it pushes all the moisture off to the north and east and dries us out really quickly. So it's possible, but I just don't know. I just don't know. Let's see. Plinko. Oh, I love this graphic right here. We got a graphic for that. I did show this graphic earlier in the week, but I think it's fun to at least go ahead and show it right now. So I'm going to move this out of the way so that you can see this. So this is one of my favorite graphics. Dan made this several years ago, and I just think this is the perfect way to describe weather forecasting. So think of weather forecasting like a Plinko board, right? You start at the top. You have many different ways this puck could go. The puck represents the current conditions in our area. And as you move throughout the time period, right, there's a lot of different ways those current conditions could go, right? The farther you are, or the further out from the event you are, the multitude of different paths that Plinko puck could take, or the forecast could take, because you see these models go back and forth, back and forth. Well, that happens because there's a lot of uncertainty because we don't have all the information yet. Now, as we move down that Plinko board, as we get closer to the event, you start to see the number of different paths shrink. So just like a puck on a Plinko board, right? It's going to shrink in terms of the different paths that it can take. So that's why as we get closer to the event, the different paths it could take narrows quite a bit. So we're going to be watching this very, very closely. That's what happens when it comes to long range forecasting. That's what happens here in the Weather Lab. And that's why I didn't do a weather live stream earlier this week, because there was really no point to it. There's really no point to it right now. And if it sounds like I'm frustrated, it is, because I promised myself I wasn't going to get into this, but I'm going to get into it anyway. Anyway, we live in a day and age in social media where you can post an image or something. It doesn't even have to be weather related. It can be anything related. And it just gets all this engagement, and it's misleading. It's misleading information. And weather forecasting now is so hard because, you'll see somebody post something and it gets like 20,000 likes and it gets like 1 million views, and they're getting money off of that. They're posting like a 10-day snowfall forecast and they get money off of that. And then we get all the questions, we get all the people that are asking about things and stuff like that. And I understand and I get it, but it's just like, it makes it so hard because that's not how the forecasting process works. And then we get closer to the event, and then folks are asking, why did you change your forecast? And the forecast never changed. We always say, hey, we're not going to know all the details until we get close to the event. We're not going to know the correct track of the system or the intensity or stuff like that until we get close to the event. That's why you need high resolution data. And so it can sometimes be, honestly, I'm just talking from a personal point of view, it can be sometimes discouraging because, like, I'll post something like the Plinko graphic, or I'll post something like a 2 different model runs saying, hey, we're just watching this very closely. Make sure you stay tuned. And it gets like 3 likes. But then the person who posted 25 inches of snow and the 364-hour GFS gets 20,000 likes, and people are going nuts and people are going crazy. So it's just really discouraging sometimes. I'm going to be honest with you. And I know I sound a little bit ranty, but it's why sometimes I don't like winter weather forecasting as much. Like, I just love weather so much. It's my favorite thing in the world. But winter weather forecasting can be a challenge because of social media in this day and age. So I appreciate everybody who's patient with us. We're always trying to, figure out the little things. So we just really, really appreciate everybody's patience on this matter. And David's right. They do make a lot of money. It is crazy. I've seen some of these people post stuff. They get 100,000 likes, 5,000 whatever views. I mean, It's crazy. It's crazy, but this is the day and age we live in right now, and so I hope people just understand that we try our best to make sure we're dissecting each model run and being patient with us throughout the forecasting process. So anyway, let's look at some more questions here before I keep getting off base on stuff like that. Again, if it doesn't snow, my kids are blaming Josh. It used to be Dan, but they had mercy on Dan after a long negotiation period. My kids are motivated and lack grace. All right. Well, you know what, Brian? If I have to get some of the blame off Dan, I'm more than happy to do that. He's been doing this a lot longer than me. I'm the young guy here, so you can make sure that they have all the blame on me. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Dan's been doing it long enough. He's paid his dues on that front. Josh, just to let you know that we don't have Riley anymore, but Chip, oh man, Nikita, I'm so sorry to hear about that. We loved Riley here, and we always loved posting pictures of him with Chip. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear about that. Um, Man, I always love the little outfits that you dressed Riley and Chip in. They're just always so much fun. We love them here at the station. But man, I'm sorry to hear about Riley, but also excited to hear about your new puppy that's coming up very soon. I can't wait to see some new pictures and everything. And oh, Harper's doing great. Harper's doing fantastic. She had a great Christmas, great New Year, got some great toys, had some good food as well. So she's living happy right now. Harper is living the dream right now. Let's see. I think the southern track is still possible because the storm is still in the Pacific and hasn't gotten sampled with weather balloons and stuff like that. You're right about that, Brian. I mean, you don't really know all the details until the system comes on shore. We know that, and that's why we have to keep an eye on things. But kind of looking at it on water vapor and stuff like that, you can tell the system is not going to dig far enough south. And there's just not any cold air in place right now. Anytime we don't have the cold air in place already, it just kind of makes me pause with systems like this. Because in this part of the country, at these latitudes, because we're so far south, you really need the cold air already in place to get significant winter weather. That's one of the things that really gives me pause with this system. And again, not saying there can't be any freezing rain impacts. Certainly, that's the worst type of precipitation. And I do think it will be predominantly freezing drizzle if we see any winter weather, especially with that shallow layer of warm air remaining in place. But man, it's so hard. It's so tough to forecast. That's for sure. When it comes to bringing inside, can someone help the general public identify the difference between a cat and a raccoon? I'm worried we've been adopting raccoons. I think you're talking about the joke that you made earlier, Brian, which, of course, I was seeing so many comments that I didn't have enough time to dissect it and everything. My goodness, the raccoons are going crazy in Bella Vista right now. I've seen a ton of those things over the last several days. So maybe they're onto something right now. Maybe they know it's about to get cold, but they're going to have to stay outside in it because I'm certainly not going to be able to help them out with this event. That's for sure. Let's see here. My kids can be bought. It takes about $15 Taco Bell. Well, I'm hanging out there all the time trying to grab myself a Baja Blast Freezy or two. How come you're only called Josh Rugger, not meteorologist Josh Rugger? Well, Brendan, because I'm not a meteorologist yet. I don't know if many people know this, but I've worked here for 2.5 years now. It's going to be 3 years in July. And that entire time, I have not had a meteorology degree. Now, I've always had a big passion for meteorology. I've always loved the weather. I mean, I've loved it ever since I could start talking. This is what I've always wanted to do my entire life. But I'll be honest with you, and this is something that I know other people struggle with that have a passion with the weather. And I'm still acknowledging your comment here, Brendan. But when I was younger, I always got scared of the math behind the weather because I don't know if a lot of people know this, but you have to really do a lot of math when you're studying meteorology. A lot of calculus, a lot of physics, a lot of those other things, a lot of STEM related classes. And it's difficult math for sure. But if you have a passion for things, folks, you should go for it. You should go for it. You should strike while the iron's hot. I kind of delayed myself a little bit when it came to that. I kind of backed off of it when I was younger. I'm like, I don't know if I could do this. So I did end up graduating from the University of Arkansas in 2021 with a degree in communications. And after I got that degree, I was like, you know what? I need to get my meteorology degree. So I was going to get a meteorology degree, at least my grad degree from Mississippi State on campus back in 2022. And then Dan Scoff gave me a call and he said, hey, like, because I had storm chased for Dan for many years. He said, hey, we've got an opening here. I know you really love the weather. Do you want to come in? And I'm like, well, I mean, I already got accepted into the grad school program, but I'll come in and I'll give it a shot. And they ended up liking what I did. And then they hired me here. And now I've been able to get experience here while also finishing up my second degree in meteorology at Mississippi State. So I will be finishing that up this summer. And then I'll be able to be called meteorologist Josh Rugger. So that's a little bit of background right there. Again, the main reason I was talking about that is because I know a lot of folks out there have a big passion for the weather. And I highly encourage them to take advantage of that passion if they have it because this is a really fun career, and I really enjoy being here in Northwest Arkansas, a place that I grew up in for many years. Um, what does the weather look like for tomorrow? I have to get out tomorrow to run some errands on a bike ride. So Daniel, I got that for you. Weather tomorrow actually not looking too bad. Mostly sunny skies, high temperatures, middle to upper 40s. It'll be a little bit cooler over Northwest Arkansas, but we've got plenty of sunshine expected. So right around seasonable averages for this time of year. Usually when we're talking about middle to upper 40s, I'm like, okay, it's a little bit cool, stuff like that. Middle to upper 40s is about as warm as we're going to get over the next several days. Here's the reason why, folks. We are about to have reinforcing shots of cold air pretty much over the next couple of weeks. And you're going to see that reflected here on Future Track. First of all, temperatures try to moderate just a little bit as we head towards the weekend because of the track of that storm system. So that keeps that warm air bottled up in Northwest Arkansas, at least briefly. But look at all this cold air that is diving south. Woo, boy, it is going to get cold as we move throughout next week. And check it out. Another reinforcing shot of cold air coming in for the middle part of next week. And that may continue as we move throughout much of the first half of January. So we'll have plenty of opportunities to get another storm system on top of this cold air. Now, here's one thing that does kind of stink a little bit if you're a winter weather lover. It does look like the majority of the cold air is going to stay just off to our east. It's not really lining up with our area perfectly, but still going to be by far the coldest temperatures we've seen so far this year. The Climate Prediction Center agrees. You can see there, colder than normal temperatures favored over Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley. It's almost a certainty in the 6 to 10 day outlook, and likely colder than normal conditions, likely continuing through at least the middle part of January. So, again, we'll see if the storm system gets on top of that cold air, but that's something we're not going to know about until we get a little bit closer to the event. Jason is asking about severe weather potential with this system on Sunday. So for Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley, Jason, especially along and south of Interstate 40, there will be the potential for some thunderstorms. No doubt about that. There will also be the threat of severe weather, I think, just off to the south of our weather coverage area. And I'll show you that latest day 4 convective outlook. I'm pulling that up right now, so just give me 1 second. I didn't have it on the show this morning, so that's why I don't have it ready. So let me go ahead and pull that up. There it is right there. So this is the day 4 convective outlook. You can see that the main severe weather risk is located over much of Louisiana, eastern Texas, much of Mississippi, western Tennessee, and southeastern Arkansas as well. There will be instability to work with in these locations. There is going to be a significant amount of wind shear as that system ejects off to the north and east. So there could be the potential for some rotating thunderstorms, large hail, damaging winds, all a concern in these areas. And these are the same areas that got hit by that tornado outbreak a few days ago as well. So similar spot, maybe a little bit farther to the north and west, that got hit by a tornado outbreak a few days ago. So definitely going to have to watch that very closely. Right now, Northwest Arkansas or the River Valley not included in that severe weather risk. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe a marginal risk was eked out just south of I-40. So Scott, LaFleur County maybe. But for Northwest Arkansas, most of the River Valley, I think the severe weather potential is going to stay off to our south and east. And I do think there will be the potential, though, for maybe a few rumbles of thunder as the system moves to the area. There's no doubt about that. I'm interested to see if the graph is that far out yet. Hold on 1 second. Stand by. I'm going to pull up this model. So the graph is more of a mid-range model, but let's go ahead and take a look at this here. Just want to see if it goes out that far. I mean, but look at the temperatures on Saturday. Very chilly. Highs only in the lower 40s, but graph showing a pretty similar setup to the other models. It just looks like most of the cold air stays off to the north. So Logan's asking about Northeast Oklahoma. Logan, where are you located in Northeast Oklahoma? Because here's the deal. If you're in Northeast Oklahoma, maybe a little bit closer to the Kansas Oklahoma border, you could have some winter weather impacts in these locations. I certainly think that's a possibility. Higher trend in Northwest Arkansas will also need to be watched as well. Again, I'm looking more for the profile of the atmosphere above our heads. In fact, I can show that. We're going to get a little bit geeky in just a minute, but before I do that, Logan says Claremore. So Claremore, you're around this area right here. I think it's going to be mostly rain where you are, Logan. Maybe a quick shot of wintry weather on the backside of the system, but again, Claremore's just a little bit too far south for significant winter weather impacts from this system. Becky's already ready for February right now. Do you think we'll get the 8 inches of snow we normally get in February around Valentine's? Becky, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, certainly if we had a system next week, for sure, I mean, there would be that chance. And again, we're watching it, but that's a funny comment right there. She knows exactly when we get our big storm systems in our area. It typically is right around that time for Northwest Arkansas. I do actually want to get into what we're looking at with the temperature profile, because there's some folks asking about like mixed precipitation. Shout out to Kylie here in Pea Ridge. There's some questions about what type of precipitation we'll see, because everybody, and I do the same thing too. I automatically think, okay, snow, right? We're going to get snow in Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley. But with this particular storm system, if we do get any winter weather, I think it's actually going to be more light freezing drizzle, which is like the worst winter weather type, because all it takes is a few hundredths of an inch of ice to cause problems. So this is why we're not letting our guard down yet, because I certainly could see a few hundredths of an inch of ice in Northwest Arkansas as the backside of the system moves through with a little bit of light freezing drizzle. And maybe even a flash freeze too, which Alex Hall mentioned earlier. I don't know if I can find his comment anymore. But when temperatures get that cold that quickly, sometimes you can get that flash freeze potential. So it's not even pulling up right now. These computers are so slow right now. So once it pulls up, I'll go ahead and show it to you guys. But I mean, I'm with Brendan on this one. If I'm going to get any winter weather, I want snow. Because freezing rain is just the absolute worst. So we'll see what happens. I would love, though, for these computer models to pull up so I can show you what's going on, but they're not pulling up right now. So we'll just wait for a few more moments there. Yeah, Logan asking about flash freeze. That is certainly a possibility. That is certainly a possibility Sunday afternoon. I mean, look at this, Logan. Look at this. I just showed this a few moments ago. But I mean, when you go from temperatures in the 50s and 60s during the morning hours on Sunday, and then you snap your finger and it's right down into the upper teens, the lower 20s, that's a rapid cool down. And if the roadways are wet, that could ice over a little bit. So a flash freeze is certainly not out of the question. It just depends on how much rain we get, how long it takes for the cold air to come in, or how long that those puddles stay on the ground, right? If we have standing water in the area, that can cause some big problems. So it's definitely going to be cold, folks. I can't stress this enough. If you got kids that head out to the bus stop, you got to make sure they're prepared for Monday morning, because Monday morning is going to be a raw day, a raw time period. I mean, single-digit wind chills in most locations. Below zero wind chills possible in far northwestern Arkansas and southwest Missouri. Shout out to Kylie and Pea Ridge. Could have some below zero wind chills there. And Kylie, this is going to be Sunday into Monday. Sunday into Monday is when we're looking at this system moving through and this big cool down. I mean, I'm telling you, Sunday afternoon is going to be brutal. I mean, I'm going to go back here to Sunday afternoon. Look at this. The air temperature is in the middle 20s in northwest Arkansas, but the wind chill values are in the single digits because of the northwesterly wind at 20 miles per hour. I mean, that just ain't right. That just ain't right. For me, it's 19 degrees without snow. It's freezing cold, but then it's 5 degrees with 8 inches of snow. It feels like 30 to me because I'm so bundled up. I stepped out this morning, didn't feel too bad. It was like upper 20s, lower 30s at my house in Bella Vista, and I was like, this ain't too bad. So it looks like I'm already used to it, but I'm not used to this right here. I can tell you next week is going to be cold. That is for sure. Um, Man, I always just the winter weather forecasting is so tough. It is so tough, especially in this part of the country. There's not a tougher part in the country to forecast winter weather, but I can tell you with 100% certainty, folks, it's going to be cold next week. So just make sure you're preparing accordingly. And it is kind of remarkable how long it stays cold in our area because if you think about it, right, typically when we get our big cold blast, you've got like a snowpack on the ground. So that's how you get your temperatures in the single digits here. But the fact that we are going to be that cold for such an extended period of time without a snowpack in our area, that's hard to do in Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley. I know it's not like extreme cold where the air temperatures are below zero, but to get down to, low temperatures of 11, 12, 13 degrees with single digit wind chill values for a stretch of 3 days and maybe even longer, that's hard to do. And high temperatures are going to struggle to get out of the 20s on Monday, and they'll struggle to get out above freezing Tuesday in Northwest Arkansas. Now, Wednesday will be a little bit warmer, but look at this. I mean, I can extend the model run, and of course, nothing's set in stone here, so take this with a grain of salt. But I can push this model out to, let's say, 3 o'clock p.m. on Wednesday. This model is still showing temperatures in the 20s in Northwest Arkansas. That might be a little bit overdone, but I mean, my goodness, it just stays cold. Overnight lows, very cold as well. Thursday tries to warm up, but still in the lower 40s. And then there's that reinforcing shot of cold air coming in Friday. High temperatures right back in the upper 20s to lower 30s. I mean, I buy it. I buy it. It's just like this avalanche of cold air. And it's a reinforcing shot of cold air every single time. So just prepare accordingly. And before I forget, it is time to show these cold weather graphics. I do need to show this right now. Let's see here. Hold on just 1 second and stand by. Keep asking questions in the comments. This is a funny comment. Have you seen that meme? Arkansas being thrown out temperatures like Powerball numbers. That's literally how it is. That is literally how it is in Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley. It is kind of crazy. Let's see here. Where's my cold weather graphics right now? I need my cold weather graphics. What will the severe weather be like in Little Rock? So, Kylie, there is a chance of some strong storms in Little Rock, but I think the bulk of the severe weather potential will be just south of Little Rock. That certainly could change. Especially if the system's even farther to the north, that allows that instability to lift to the north. But I think like the significant severe weather potential will be off to your south and east, in Little Rock at least. But there is still a chance for some strong storms along the I-40 corridor. So we'll certainly have to watch that very, very closely there. Let's see here. Where is my cold weather graphics? I should already have this stuff in here, so it's completely my fault that I'm even having to deal with this. But as you can imagine, we've got a lot of graphics in this system over a long period of time. So just bear with me. You know what? I'll show this graphic. I like this one. Is this the right one? Yeah, this is my favorite one right here. So, I was just talking about the potential for freezing rain, and this is why we are going to get freezing rain potential Sunday afternoon into the evening. So, of course, rain falls when that entire layer of air from the surface all the way up to basically the base of the cloud, because that's where it really matters. It's all above freezing. So all that snow that's up there in the atmosphere melts pretty much instantly as it drops, and then it hits the ground as rain, plain old regular rain. Now, freezing rain happens when you have that cold layer of air up towards the base of the cloud. You have temperatures that are above freezing in between the surface and the mid-levels of the atmosphere, so it's just plain old regular rain. But then at the surface, the temperatures are below freezing once again. So you have a shallow layer of cold air at the surface that is allowing for the raindrop to freeze on contact. And that is the worst winter weather type because that is what we know as ice. And a little bit of freezing rain goes a long, long way. A little bit of snow doesn't go a long way. A little bit of sleet doesn't go anywhere. But a little bit of freezing rain can cause big time problems. So we do have to watch that very closely for Sunday afternoon, especially if we can get some more precipitation on the backside of the system. Now, another winter precipitation type is sleet. It's basically like freezing rain in terms of the column of air above the surface, except that the layer of Arctic air is a little bit more deep at the surface and in the lower levels of the atmosphere. And then instead of a shallow layer of cold air, you have a shallow layer of warmer air in the mid levels of the atmosphere. So the snow melts, then it refreezes as that raindrop continues to fall through the atmosphere. It refreezes as little ice pellets, and that's what we know as sleet. And sleet to me is the best possible type of winter weather if you want minimal impacts because it just takes a ton of sleet in order to pile up. Now, snow, of course, is one of the easier ones to talk about because it is basically the snowflake going all the way down through the atmosphere. Temperatures are below 32 degrees. There's nothing impeding that snowflake, so it hits the ground as snow. And again, the issue with this system and why I think it leans more towards freezing rain potential if we get any winter weather is because the layer of cold air that's going to be moving into northwest Arkansas very quickly is going to be shallow. And if the computer was working right now, I could show you that, but it's not working right now. So I unfortunately cannot show you like a sounding to geek out a little bit and show you why I think there's going to be freezing drizzle potential over our area. But the point is that we do need to keep an eye on Sunday afternoon into the evening if there is a little bit of that freezing drizzle, if we can eke out a little bit moisture into the atmosphere. So that's the different winter precipitation types. That's the first time I've gotten to show that all year. Let's see. I'm trying to find the graphic that explains pets, pipe, people, plants. I'm trying to show that one because I think that one's very important as well, especially this time of year. But I just cannot find it right now. So unfortunately, might not be able to show that just because I'm by myself right now here in the weather lab. So I can't really go back and forth between graphics. If we usually have more people in here, we can just kind of split up the workload, but I can't do that right now. But again, this is going to be a long-term cold spell, folks. I really do believe that. This is a 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. You can see colder than normal temperatures, almost a certainty over northwest Arkansas. That extends into 8 to 14 days as well. So definitely going to be a cold one. We'll see if a storm system gets on top of that. I live on a mountain in Marble. Is it possible to see some freezing rain? Certainly is a possibility, Brendan. We'll watch it very closely. Again, it just all depends on how quickly that system moves in, the timing, the intensity. That is the kind of stuff that we still need to fine tune right now. I feel like there's more uncertainty in terms of the timing and the intensity of the system rather than the track. I think the track is it could wobble here and there, a little bit farther north, a little bit farther south, but I do have pretty high confidence in the track right now. The European model, I'm telling you, the European model has not wavered on this system. That's pretty rare to see from a long-range model. And the GFS was kind of going back and forth. It was like, okay, maybe an ice storm, maybe rain, maybe an ice storm, maybe rain. And now the GFS is like, all right, we're on this European train as well. We're going to consistently show the potential for widespread rain with a little bit of winter precipitation on the backside. So Carissa's asking about Benton County. We're going to see snow or ice. So Carissa, again, main precipitation type, and I'll show you here on Future Track. Main precipitation type is going to be rain. That is what we are going to see most of the day on Sunday. On the backside of the system Sunday, as the cold air starts to filter in, we may see a little wintry mix perhaps of light freezing rain, maybe some sleet pellets, maybe a snowflake or two. If we do see any winter precipitation, I think the predominant precip type will be freezing drizzle. Just because that layer of cold air is going to be very shallow initially as it moves into the area. And that's what you're seeing with the system right now. What you're seeing with the system is that the temperatures are going from 60 degrees to 24 degrees just like that rapidly. And so if we do have any winter weather, it's going to be light, number one. And number two, it will probably be in the form of freezing drizzle. And I know that wasn't the right answer. I know I get 0 points. I know I get an F. But that's just that's just the reality with these storm systems. And that's just the reality when we don't have the cold air already in place. I mean, it's just when you don't have the cold air in place, I never really have a whole lot of confidence that we're going to see anything more than light winter precipitation. And so we'll see. We'll see what happens. There's a lot of folks on social media that are convinced that this is going to be like the biggest Arctic outbreak of all time. And it's going to be cold here in Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley, no doubt about it. But like last week, I mean, you want to talk about social media hype. There were folks that were saying this is going to be the biggest Arctic outbreak in 5 decades. This is going to be the most snow we've seen in 25 years. It's just crazy. It's hard. It's so hard nowadays to forecast. And I'm just sitting there like, oh my goodness, they're getting like 30,000 likes. And I know I'm going to get a question from somebody about this. And I get it. I understand it's so hard to decipher this data. But that's why winter weather forecasting is not my favorite. Now, you know a guy who loves winter weather forecasting is Zach Gilday. That guy loves winter weather forecasting. He's from the Northeast. He's all about that. I'm from Arkansas. I've lived here my whole life. When I was young, I used to love forecasting this stuff because, number one, I didn't get mean emails when I was little. Number two, everybody thought it was cute when I was forecasting snow. Nowadays, people are like, you're ugly, you're trash, and stuff like that. And number three, I didn't realize just how difficult it was to actually decipher this data. Once you actually get down to it and you kind of get into the weeds of winter weather forecasting, it's not fun at this latitude. Just in my opinion. It is so challenging. Let's see. So Brandon is talking about a system potentially late next week that could be moving to the area. I'm not going to show any data on that quite yet, Brandon, because as I just mentioned, I think it's a little bit too far out. But we will be watching it very closely. There are some indications that the weather pattern could get active again late next week. You just saw a sneak peek at some of the temperatures we could be dealing with throughout next week. If we did have a system next week, that would be one that would set off the alarm bells in my head. That's if it happens, right? But we are over a week out from that. So again, remember, Plinko. There's a lot of different ways that puck can move over the next few days, right? There's a lot of different directions that storm system can move. You move that system north or south 100 miles or so, and you could get a variety of different winter weather impacts. So for that system next week, we are like in the 8 to 10 day time range. And look at that. Those current conditions could go in many different directions. Now, as we get closer to the event, the ways that this puck can move goes down, the deviations go down, and we have a much better idea of what exactly could happen. So this is something we'll be watching very closely. Again, it's something on our radar. It's something we'll be watching. But am I going to post any model data on this? Am I going to talk about it in depth? No way, Jose, because we're way up here and we've got all these different possibilities. I mean, you've got one long-range model, just to give you an idea, folks, on the system for next week. You got one long-range model that was showing 0 inches of snow, another one that was showing a foot. So long ways to go. Just be patient with us. On this one. How was your New Year and Christmas? And Taco Bell right there. Thank you for doing updates on Facebook. And tonight we're going to go to Walmart to get some groceries. Well, Daniel, thank you so much for joining in. Thank you for the Taco Bell shout out. Hope we got a Baja Blast with that. In terms of New Year and Christmas, I had a great time. Got to spend time with my family. I did work Christmas. I worked Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Had a great time at the Liberty Bowl in Memphis. Had a great time with my family down in Dallas. Spent New Year's Day working here, first of all. New Year's Eve, I also worked here, so I didn't get to sleep at all. Well, I didn't stay up. I didn't stay up and watch the ball drop. I just went to bed. I celebrated New Year's yesterday. That's what you call it if you have to wake up really early. But it was a great New Year, great Christmas. Got to spend some good time with family and happy that we're now getting that more consistent workflow here at the station again, because a lot of folks go in and out, spend time with family. It can kind of be a crazy time of year when you work in this industry, so it is nice to have some more consistency. Looks like the power went out on my light. I've stayed on so long that the power went off on my light. Well, I'll just go back to this. That way you don't have to see me in the darkness. Yeah, it was a great New Year. Thank you so much, Daniel. Hope you had a great New Year and Christmas as well with your family. Alex hit the nail on the head. The most aggravating part is some people will blame the meteorologists instead of the people who post the crazy model outputs. And that's the thing. That's the thing that's most annoying to me, Alex, is that like you see all these meteorologists across the country that just get hammered. I mean, they just get relentlessly hammered by people because of other folks that are posting these model outputs. It's never the people that post them. It's always the meteorologists that have to take the brunt of it. And it's just like, we didn't post that. I didn't post it. Dan didn't post it. The meteorologist up north didn't post it. It was like some random Twitter account. And yet, we get the angry emails. It's like, you were telling me it was going to be 12 inches of snow a few days ago. Now there's no snow. I'm like, no, I didn't. I haven't even come out with the accumulation forecast yet. And number one, because I don't think it's going to be that significant. Number two, because it's still too far out. I think 4 days out is too far to be talking about accumulations. You could start talking about it maybe 2-3 days out if you get more confidence. But especially with a forecast like this, where it's so difficult, where the margins are so thin, I'm not going to be posting anything about that. I'll give you some data. I'll give you some potential tracks and show what scenarios we could have. But Alex, it is aggravating. It is aggravating. That's for sure. Let's see. Brandon, I like Radar Omega. I also like Radar Scope. When I go storm chasing, I typically use Radar Scope just because it's a little bit easier to follow on my phone. If I have a laptop, I'll use, of course, GR2 Analyst. I'll use Radar Omega as well if I've got access to that. But Radar Scope is my favorite for on-the-fly radar data. Like if I am storm chasing, I need to stop and I need to look at the radar. Radar Scope's going to be my go-to, and it's very cheap too. To get the subscription. I think it's only like $9.99 a year. And then if you want Pro 2, which has more advanced data, that's like $99.99, which is still nothing, in my opinion. Carrie's asking a very important question. We are driving to the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota. Tripped up to Saturday. Do you think leaving Saturday morning will let us drive through Missouri safely before the storm? If folks are visiting here, should they head home soon if they live north of us? Carrie, I think that Saturday morning you may run into some issues. And that's because the system is going to start ejecting off to the north and east. You can see that kind of here on Future Track. That system is already starting to eject off to the north. Saturday morning along the interstate here as you head towards Kansas City. Now, it's not going to be heavy precipitation, but I wouldn't be surprised if this precipitation initially started off as freezing drizzle in these locations or sleet. And if it's freezing drizzle, that can cause problems. So if you leave Saturday morning, like really early, like before sunrise, I think you should be fine. But man, you're going to be cutting it close. Because once this system gets going, I mean, this is going to cause big impacts. Now, up in Minnesota, current track of the system a little bit too far south for there to be significant impacts in Minnesota itself. But man, you could be driving into some tough conditions up in Kansas and Iowa, Missouri, those areas. They could get quite a bit. So just make sure you're leaving really early Saturday. Like I'd be like 2 a.m. if you're going to leave on Saturday. And if possible, I know this is sometimes not feasible, but maybe move the trip to tomorrow and get up there tomorrow. It's just, I want to minimize the amount of risk. Because if that system gets going Saturday morning, there's freezing drizzle or something like that going on in those locations, you could be in some trouble. Now, for people that are heading north, they should go ahead and leave tomorrow because I just wouldn't want them out on the roadways, especially Saturday afternoon. Saturday afternoon, things are going to start getting messy in those spots. Let's see what the GFS is showing as well. Again, these are just models; they're not perfect, but I mean the GFS is kind of showing a similar setup. It's hanging around. If the system comes in earlier, it could spell big problems there Saturday afternoon. So, Carrie, I hope that answered your question. Just be very careful and leave as early as possible on Saturday if you must leave on Saturday. I would not delay that trip anymore. If possible, leave tomorrow. You'll be safe if you leave tomorrow for sure. No doubt about it. Slam dunk. Saturday, just don't leave too late. Leave very early in the morning to be as safe as possible. Josh, I will send you a picture of Chip, new puppy friend. His name is Bentley. Okay, Bentley. I will remember that. I cannot wait to see Bentley, Nikita, and I'm sure Chip is also happy to have a new puppy friend as well. What do you think about Springfield, Missouri? So that is a good question. So Springfield, Missouri could see some winter weather impacts. Probably could see initially freezing rain with this system in Springfield. And then probably at least briefly a changeover to rain. But man, Springfield is right on the line. You can kind of see it right there. Springfield is right on the line there of some potentially significant winter weather impacts. So Springfield will have a better chance of seeing winter weather than Northwest Arkansas. And if there is going to be any winter weather in Springfield, it's going to be probably freezing rain, and it could be quite heavy if there's enough cold air in place. So keep a close eye on that there in Springfield. Um, oh man, I wish I could show this. I don't know what's going on. I think this computer's just using too much storage or something like that because it is not allowing me to pull up any models right now. I can't pull up anything on this computer. We gotta get that fixed because I really want to show you guys some of the nitty gritty stuff and really get into more detail. So here's the deal. Tomorrow I'll do another weather live stream. It won't be as long as this one, but I'll do another weather live stream tomorrow. That way we can get into more of the nitty gritty. I want to make sure this computer's fixed because it's honestly not the best right now. I want to make sure it gets fixed, and then we could show some more model data, show you why I'm anticipating freezing drizzle over snow if we get anything in Northwest Arkansas. But Trace, just to give you kind of the bare bones of it all, rain likely Sunday morning, little bit of light wintry mix possible Sunday afternoon to evening. More than likely going to be freezing drizzle. Could cause some impacts on the roadways. There could be some flash freezing potential as well because the top weather story is going to be significant cold that comes in next week with temperatures dropping off into the teens for overnight lows, single digit wind chills. Some locations could see wind chills below zero early Monday morning. And that cool down will last an extended period of time as well. So that's really the nitty gritty of it all. If anybody else has any questions, I'll stay on for another 5 minutes or so. I don't see a whole lot of new questions coming up right now. I know a lot of folks are tuning in. Really appreciate everybody joining in and asking all these questions. Heather, who will be doing the weather tonight at 5 p.m.? That will be Zach Gilday. So Zach Gilday's back in town. He took a well-deserved vacation, and he'll be back here at 5:30 p.m. Thank you. I was worried about the mix ice starting earlier than 1 p.m. as Kansas City says. If we leave at 7 a.m. with no weather slowdowns, we are out of Missouri by 11:30. We will keep our eyes open and keep watching. We will stay safe. We were raised in the northern Midwest. Respect the weather. So that's good stuff right there, Carrie. Thank you so much for asking that question. Drive safely. I think you'll be fine if you leave at 7 a.m. I think you'll be fine. Just take it nice and easy on those roadways. You know what's up. You know it better than me. I'm from Arkansas. You're from the Midwest. You know what's up with these systems. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes freezing drizzle can be worse than heavy freezing rain because then you get that glaze on the roadways and it could cause some big problems. That is a little bit concerning because it doesn't take a whole lot to cause freezing drizzle. You can have a ton of dry air in place, but that freezing drizzle works its way through the atmosphere and it can cause some problems. So we'll keep an eye on that Sunday afternoon to the evening. We'll have a better idea of what's going on tomorrow. So I'll have another weather live stream tomorrow. I can assure you that. Let's see here. How much rain is expected Sunday morning? That's a good question. let's go ahead and look at some model data on that front. Because, I'm talking about potential for maybe a little bit of winter weather, but rain's going to be the predominant precipitation type. So let's get right to it. Let's see here. So this is a European model. So it's showing about a tenth to a quarter of an inch of rain. The farther north you can go, the more precipitation, obviously, that there's going to be. So Northwest Arkansas, half inch at most. Most locations, a tenth to a quarter of an inch with lesser amounts the farther south you go. That's the European model. GFS is a little bit stronger with that system, so I'm presuming it's showing more precipitation. So let's see the GFS. Yeah, it's showing a little bit more. It's also showing more in central and southern Arkansas because of that thunderstorm potential. But GFS is showing widespread quarter-inch amounts. It's not going to be anything crazy, not going to be anything significant, Keaton, but still, a good amount of rain. And then, of course, in the afternoon, we could see maybe a little bit of freezing drizzle as well. Yeah, absolutely, Alyssa. I really appreciate you understanding that. Are we expecting another active winter this year? I mean, so far it's been pretty quiet, but you never know when things can start ramping up. This is our first true cold blast of the year. It's a cold blast that's going to last a long time. So it just takes one storm system to change your whole perspective of the winter season. So next week, we will have the cold air in place. The question is, do we get a storm system on top of that cold air? Too far out to get into those details, but certainly will be cold enough. So we'll be watching it very closely. I will say the overall weather pattern so far has been not very active this winter, but that could change. That could change. So we'll keep a close eye on it. Ice is no. Snow can be managed. That is exactly right, Carrie. That is exactly right. Where can we send pictures to you? So that's a good question, Daniel. You can send those pictures in to weather@knwa.com. I just typed out the email in the comment section there. So you should be able to see that. You can go ahead and copy and paste that into the address book. That's how you can send it to us directly. We get all that stuff directly, and we can show that stuff on the show or also show that on the weather live streams. I love doing that as well. But weather@knwa.com is the place to go. Leslie just joining ICE. Again, Leslie, thank you for joining in. First of all, I'll show you a quick look at future track as well. We are expecting the majority of the precipitation to be in the form of rain. So Saturday afternoon into the evening, maybe some drizzle possible in Northwest Arkansas. Winter weather impacts are really going to start ramping up in Kansas and Missouri late Saturday, especially during the overnight hours and the early Sunday morning. Saturday night, especially could be a rough one in Missouri. Braylon, I know you're just joining in, talking about traveling through Missouri. It could be difficult to travel through Missouri the later you go in the day. Saturday morning, probably going to be fine. Saturday afternoon to the evening, and as you get later and later into the night, not going to be great. Not going to be great. Highly recommend not doing that. So, again, Saturday during the day for Northwest Arkansas, dreary, a little bit of drizzle possible. As we move throughout the overnight hours Saturday into Sunday, we expect all rain. Temperatures will be hovering in the 40s and lower 50s. We hang on to that rain during the late morning hours area wide. And then during the afternoon, as the cold air filters in, we may see a transition to a light wintry mix. I think the predominant precipitation type will be in the form of light freezing drizzle. So we are going to see any freezing drizzle, or we're going to see any winter precipitation. It will be in the form of freezing drizzle. So I'm going to go ahead and move that out of the way there. So that's what we're looking at right now. And again, a little bit goes a long way with freezing drizzle. So we're going to have to watch that very, very closely. If I'm going to Branson on Friday and planning to come back Saturday night, do I need to adjust my plans? So in Branson, you're a little bit farther east, right? So in Branson, I think things will actually be fine. And I'll show you why. So this is Saturday afternoon. So it's cold. It's cold, but it's not cold enough, right? It's not cold enough for winter weather yet. And as we move throughout the overnight hour Saturday, it's going to remain above freezing. So, Becca, if you're going to Branson on Friday, you're coming back Saturday night, I think you're going to be fine. I think you're going to, oh, wait, Saturday night, Saturday. Yeah, I think you're going to be fine in Branson. I think you're going to be fine. So, I'm sorry, guys. I'm dealing with somebody's spamming comments, so I'm trying to read everybody's comments here. So if you're going to Branson on Friday, coming back Saturday night, I think you're going to be okay. Becca, I think you're going to be okay. I think the temperatures will not be cold enough yet. I think you'll be able to come back safely. Just make sure you get back in before Sunday in Northwest Arkansas, because that's when things could get a little bit dicey on the roadways, especially Sunday afternoon, if we have any winter weather. We have to have it, first of all. And I still have some doubts. I still have some questions that need to be answered from the high resolution data. Let's see here. This guy, I'm just going to show you what I'm dealing with right now. This guy is posting the same comment over and over again, and I'm trying to ban him, and it's like not working. So, whatever. Let's see here. Josh, I think I will send you a picture of Chip and his new friend together. I don't know if he got it yet. Okay. I'll check on that, Nikita, right after this live stream is over. Thank you so much for sending that in. How much snow accumulation is expected in central Missouri through Monday? So, Keaton, still trying to figure that out. Even those areas are still trying to figure out, because it really does depend on when exactly that precipitation transitions over to snow. Because initially we're going to get freezing rain in those areas, maybe some sleet, right? There's going to be a transition period in central Missouri. So it really depends on when exactly that transition happens in those areas. That's going to determine the extent of the snow accumulation. But we can go ahead and give you a general glimpse on that. I'm fine with showing maybe a computer model for those areas, because I think there will no doubt be snow in central Missouri through Monday. And in fact, I already have a future track ready to rock and roll here. This is just one model. I mean, is it overdone? Maybe. But man, there could be some significant snowfall totals in these locations. Again, this is going to kind of go back and forth. This is going to be adjusted. This is also assuming a 10-to-1 snowfall ratio, which it's probably not going to be that. It's probably going to be more like 15-to-1, 20-to-1 in those locations with temperatures as cold as they're going to be in those spots. So that means that it takes a little bit more liquid equivalent in order to make that snow for those snowfall totals to go up. So that is something to consider with this. But significant snow expected for sure. So I don't know where that comment is. Keaton, we're going to keep an eye on this in central Missouri. I think Kansas City, St. Louis, those areas, they're going to be under the gun with the system. Not just from snow, but maybe from freezing rain as well and sleet initially. When you get that initial layer of freezing rain and sleet, man, that could cause some big, big impacts. Let's see here. 25 pounds of brisket about to go in the smoker. Might be a quick minute before temps warm up again. You're exactly right about that, Alex. Man, that brisket sounds good right now. That sounds really good. Are you favoring Euro? Well, Alex, I mean, here's the deal. I do think the Euro's better. And I will say this: the Euro has been way more consistent on this system than the GFS. The GFS was like blah 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 blah, going back and forth, back and forth. European model has just been steady Eddie. I mean, it's been steady Eddie, consistently showing a track that's off to the north, consistently showing the potential for mostly liquid precipitation in Northwest Arkansas. So right now, I think the Euro's onto something, and I'm trusting that right now. Let's see here. Absolutely, Keaton. Anytime, my friend. All right. I don't see any more comments right now. So unless somebody has another question, I'm going to wrap this up very soon. But I appreciate everybody joining in and sharing their comments and asking questions. We have a very dedicated, a very intelligent viewer base as well. You guys, I learn stuff from you guys every single day. And that's one of my favorite things about this community, is that everybody is just really in tune with the weather, really on top of things as well. A lot of folks have studied it themselves. And everybody asked just really good questions as well. So I just really appreciate that. Um, Peggy asking how much snow for Nashville. Peggy, I don't think Nashville will get as much snow as what's going to be seen farther north because you're going to be on the warm side of that system. Eric, Northwest Arkansas just getting rain or freezing rain. Eric, the majority of the precipitation is going to be in the form of rain with maybe, and I say maybe with a lot of emphasis, maybe a light wintry mix on the backside of the system Sunday afternoon. I tend to favor light freezing drizzle with that. So that's my opinion on the matter right now. Hey James, hope you're having a good one. Hope you had a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year as well, my friend. Really appreciate you joining in. All right. I think I'm going to wrap this up. Man, we got over 1,000 viewers right now. You folks have been amazing. Man, we got a lot of questions about snow. I'm telling you, a lot of people like snow. Southeast Louisiana, Charleston, West Virginia. That's not in my DMA. I covered Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley, but I'll tell you what, Lynn, it's a little bit too far out to determine that. I know exactly what you're talking about because if you joined just now, earlier on in the live stream, I had a little bit of a spiel about forecasting. There is a system that's going to be likely moving through the southern United States as we move throughout next week. Will there be snow in Southeast Louisiana? Will there be anything? Stay tuned. It's too far out to determine if that's going to be the case. Just stay tuned. Keep an eye on things. It is going to get cold in your neck of the woods, though. Probably some of the coldest temperatures you've ever experienced in your area. So just be ready for at least cooler weather. Snow, we'll keep an eye on it. We'll let you know about the details. Join back in next week. Next week, we'll have a lot more data, and we'll let you know about that. Let's see here. Any more questions? Any more questions? Checking in for next weekend, 10 to 12 kids traveling back from East Texas to York. And next weekend, Susan, yeah, we'll be here next week. I'll be here next week with more details about next weekend. For this weekend, we've obviously got the most information. You know that. We'll get to next week when we get a little bit more data in. I'll have a live stream tomorrow with more information about this weekend, and then next week we'll have another couple live streams or so in the morning, dissecting that data as well. All right. I think we're wrapping this up. Hope everybody has a wonderful rest of your Thursday. Again, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate you guys for trusting the Weather Authority team, for trusting us, for being patient with us as well. Again, I'm sorry about going on a little bit of spiel about some of the misleading information that's going on social media. I know it can be hard to decipher if something's true or not. We just really appreciate you guys turning to us for that information. Of course, Zach Gilday is going to be here later on tonight, starting at 5 o'clock p.m. on KNWA with the latest model data, with the latest information. He's really in tune with this stuff. All of us are really in tune with this stuff. Dan Scoff's going to be back next week as well, just in time for that big Arctic blast. I think he's coming back next Tuesday, so he'll be back as well. Of course, I'll be here throughout the next couple of weeks as well, following these trends, have some more weather live streams. So again, really appreciate everybody. Hope you have a great rest of your Thursday. Happy New Year. Happy 2025. Hope it's been a great start to the new year for you, and we'll see you in the next weather live stream. Have a great and blessed Thursday.